I can go ahead and kick us off. So my name is Diva Patel. I just graduated from SVSU in December, and I actually double majored in political science and then the cell biology, molecular biology, and biomedical sciences major, which is really long, but uh, had a great time doing that. And right now I am in Washington, D.C., and I work for Congresswoman McDonald Rivet here in her D.C. office.
My name is Nick Baker. I also graduated this past December. I majored in political science on the pre-law track. So I'm not doing much right now, but this fall I'll be enrolling in law school.
So I can go ahead and ask the first question to you, Nick. Um, it's a three-part question, but what did you ultimately end up getting out of moot court? Why did you choose to participate? How has it helped you both academically and in your personal life? And what do you think is the value of participating in moot court?
I would say the main things you get out of moot court are both the academic and the personal. Academic, of course, if you're on the pre-law track like Diva and I both were, then you're going to have direct access to Supreme Court cases and analyzing those and giving arguments in front of trained lawyers across the country. We both participated 3 years and had regional competitions in Ohio and national competitions in Louisiana and Texas. So we've been all over the country, lawyers all over the country. So I think what you get out of that is getting to experience the law firsthand while still being an undergrad, which is exactly why I participated, because I really wanted to go to law school and I wanted to make sure that that it really was the right path for me, which I think that's what moot court showed me, is that it was, which is why I've applied to a lot of law schools and will be attending this fall. And then on the personal note, I made a lot of close friends who I still am in contact with today through the program at SVSU. And I think that's one of our strengths, is that we build a lot of relationships with each other within that program.
Yeah, I would echo all of that, particularly the friendships that I've made. I think um, it's a wonderful experience, but it's also a little bit of like a trauma bonding, especially when you first start doing moot court and you kind of have no idea what's going on or even how to read a Supreme Court case. But you really do learn to work and collaborate with others. And like Nick said, like we've made friends for life, a lot of people that I still talk to on a daily basis. And it's funny, since the moot court case changes every year, there are a lot of inside jokes and like funny little moments that I think, people outside of the moot court realm wouldn't understand, but it's definitely developed a lot of my personal relationships. I think also, if you have anxieties towards public speaking, as a lot of people do, I think it really forces you to come out of your comfort zone a little bit. You're not giving a speech in front of like a really big crowd, but you are still talking to at least, like anywhere between five to like eight people in a room when you're doing an argument and giving around. So you're able to, get better at public speaking and, make it a less anxious experience. So I think that personally for me was really big because I used to get really anxious talking in front of people I don't know. And moot court is all about talking in front of people you don't know. So that's probably what I've taken away from it too.
So the next question here is just regarding how we've competed together the past couple years and how we've grown as a team and the different strengths that we bring each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you and I have been friends through a lot of our political work and in the political science department, but our moot court partnership definitely brought our friendship a lot closer, especially because we would spend a lot of time, particularly because, you had to do the rebuttals. So you would have to know a lot about my side of the issue, even though I didn't necessarily have to know yours. But between that and obviously brief writing, we collaborate a lot. So I think that helped us, grow our personal relationship. And in terms of professional relationship, I think you're a really great speaker. So to our team, that is definitely the biggest strength that you brought because you're very articulate and calm when they ask questions, and you're able to get your point across effectively. So that was a really strong part of our team. And yeah, I mean, we've definitely grown each year that we've done moot court, even when we weren't partners our first year. But finally, when we did become partners, we just got better and better each year. And I think that's, that's something everybody wants to do, is continue to grow and improve. So I think, you and I did that well, and we did it together. So
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. I will mention how you talked about our first year and we weren't partners, and to bring a complement of the strengths you bring, and that was as we competed against each other at our regional, my partner and your partner, and you and Ethan did knock Garrett and I out. And I think a lot of that was due to your response to questions. We had tough judges that round, and you've continued that over the years and gotten better with that, which you've consistently gotten compliments on. So I think that's been one of our strengths as a team is responding to questions effectively. Um, I would also just say the fact that you have been a little bit more calm than I have throughout all these competitions with how competitive I am. I take it very seriously and get a little bit worked up, whereas you are less so than that. So I appreciate the leveling out between our partnership. Overall, I would agree that, we have grown a lot as friends and as partners in this. And, um, the working together, I will say you're welcome for doing the rebuttal over the years. I've enjoyed it, but that has always been a fun thing to have to try to pick your brain about the cases that I may not have read as closely as you have.
Yeah, so the next question, kind of looking back to the beginning of our moot court experience, how do you feel that you've changed since then?
I would say I've changed a lot. I didn't know much about moot court, about really the legal field outside of what you see on TV shows prior to taking the class and being involved with this program. So I would say pretty much everything has changed. My speaking skills have improved. My ability to read complex information and synthesize that and understand it has improved. And I think my interpersonal skills with people have improved. This program relies on all of us engaging with each other, whether just you and I as partners, but also with the other partnerships on the team, as that's where all the ideas are flowing, is when you are working with everybody and obviously not just your partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, one of the biggest things is like I didn't really understand what it would be like to, simulate an argument in front of the Supreme Court. I didn't kind of realize how serious it would be. And the way that we compete, obviously, is also, it's obviously a simulation, but we are taught to take it very seriously. And so, really fine tuning my speaking skills, remembering that, even if I'm just speaking to a group of attorneys, like to me in my mind, they are Supreme Court justices, and that's how I should act and behave. And I think that's really great and to translate into a professional setting. My job here in Congress, I run into a lot of important people, or even people who would consider themselves important, and I think it's helped me carry myself more professionally. So because when I was first starting out, I didn't think it was that serious. I was just kind of taking this class because I was interested, because I was told I should take it, but I was really there to take a class, have fun doing it, because I knew some of my friends were taking it too. But it really kind of gave me a newfound appreciation for the legal field and the law. So that's definitely changed since the beginning.
Yeah, so now I think we could just talk a little bit about the success that the program has gone through since we've been here and how exactly that came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, echoing the answer to your last set of questions, um, it's a very collaborative experience. I mean, you really do get so much from just listening to your teammates argue. You will pick up ideas and things that you just didn't think before to use in your argument, or find cases within cases to use. I mean, it's really not something that I think somebody can do it alone and do it well. A lot of my best arguments, the way that I've learn to think about things have come from my experiences with my teammates. And that's why, everything we do matters, and it helps our program's ranking. And so every person that participates in the moot court program at SVSU makes some sort of impact on it through competing at a regional, through brief writing. I think um, that's how SVSU Moot Court has been successful. We mentioned the fact that we had really great friendships that we made, and that's because we spent so much time together just talking about these cases, talking about our arguments, and working together, and really helping each other. Because at the end of the day, like, it is a competition, but it's also us as a team trying to build up our ranking and show that like SVSU has a very serious moot court presence, and we have really great competitors. So I think that collaboration has contributed to a lot of our success.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And I would, touch on our coaches that put in a lot of time. Since the 3 years that we've been here, we've spent countless hours outside of the classroom with our professors and coaches to go through all of this stuff. That was always fun. It was a lot of hard work though on our end, I know, and I'm sure it was for them too, having to, dig through these cases and hear us give these arguments and try to point us in the right direction of what we can improve on. Then of course all the classmates, like you said, Diva, I think that, you know, even the people who may not have done super well at their regional and qualified for the preliminary rounds or the national rounds, that them being in the class and part of the program helped improve everybody else. And so our coaches say that anybody who asked a question or said anything throughout the entire class is part of the reason why we were so successful, regardless of what their own individual success looked like. And I would just echo that's why we have been able to do so well these past few years and compete with people from universities like Yale, Georgetown, all the top universities that everybody across the country knows. But they also know within the moot court world, SVSU, because of all of the hard work of our program.
Yeah, so going into the next question, how did you spend time preparing for the national tournament?
Yeah, with moot court, a lot of what it is and is just giving your arguments. Once you have read, the undergraduate moot court is a closed case, so we of course we're only dealing with a few cases here, 10 on each side about. So once we've read through these dozens of times and discussed them as a class and as a team, there's only so much more you can pull out of them. So a lot of it is just giving these arguments to our classmates, to our coaches, and finding those little areas where we could be more clear with what we're saying, or maybe there was an argument we hadn't considered yet, and just finding those little areas where you can earn a few extra points. So in practice, this was us in with our coaches and with our classmates, just giving arguments, doing rounds against each other, and then discussing those after what we could have improved on. And then, of course, as partners, Diva, you and I would go through the rebuttal. I would, pick your brain on the cases even more because I didn't want to get up there and get asked a question that I couldn't answer on your issue. So a lot of that is taking that time that we have now extra to focus on the other issue for those of us who do rebuttal.
Yeah, I think we obviously had very similar experiences because everyone in the class pretty much prepares the same way. You come to class with the cases read, the case problem read, and depending on how long you've done moot court, you kind of have an idea of what you already want to say for both sides when you come into your first day. So I think we prepare pretty much, all year round. We, get our case problem in May and we start reading it. We start reading the cases over the summer. There are case chats, different opportunities in which you and I have had to really dive into these things before the semester starts, because once it does start, there's possibility that we're going to start competing in October, which is really soon, judging by how fast like the semester always goes. So I think it's basically a year-long process, and we just spend a lot of time reading everything, rereading it. But really the most helpful part, I think, for both of our experiences has been the fact that we just keep giving arguments, even, particularly these last two rounds in Houston and Lubbock. It was a little bit easier for you because you were or near campus and able to get to campus to, give your arguments to our coaches and our teammates in person. But I would Zoom in every day or every time that we had a practice session. And so that was really interesting for me on my end, just to be able to balance the fact that, I'd work all day and then I'd come back and, give the arguments and stuff. But I think it's necessary because if we didn't practice and we, just sat idle for even like 2-3 weeks, like just as easy as it is to remember everything, it's just as easy to forget. And I think you would agree with that. So those practices where we give our arguments are just so crucial. Okay, so what was your thought process about the national tournament before we went to, the final round of the moot court tournament? Did you have any kind of hopes, fears, any challenges, or, anything that you were thinking about in particular?
Yeah, well, you'll probably remember we did the summer moot camp, which is where we spend a few days right when the case problem comes out and go over the case problem, mostly focusing on that before we get into the actual Supreme Court cases. And part of that, one of our coaches asked all of us who were there, what were our goals, and this was before this past season, this was a couple years ago now, what our goals were with doing moot court again. And I said my answer was to win the whole thing. So of course, going into this is the closest that you and I have gotten to that, being in the final rounds rather than the preliminary rounds like last year. So I was pretty nervous. I had confidence in us because I know what we're capable of, and we've done this for a while, but of course, anything can happen. And so I was definitely pretty nervous going into it, but I was confident that we had the ability to go far and win it, which of course we didn't, but we got pretty close. So I'm still proud of us for that. And so um, I would say it was all just about, preparation. And so I think that both of us kind of took the time with the coaches to get prepared before going. That way, when we went into it, we knew we actually had a shot at, making a big dent in that tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me going in, I talked a little bit before about just like how balancing the fact that I like work full time and still have this activity which I love doing, but it's a difficult balance when I come home from work and I'm really tired. So going into the national tournament, I think everyone has self-doubts, right? Like you don't know how far you're going to go, especially when you get to the second day, it's you only really have that round and then maybe you'll go to the next one, maybe you won't, compared to the first day when you compete in three. So I think for me, I was just like, I felt uh, just me personally, like maybe I wasn't all the way prepared as much as I could be, but also cognizant of the fact that, like we've had this case problem for a really long time. We've worked really hard. You and I both were working on a campaign and we were still able to be really successful leading up to the national tournament. And so I think, uh, like you said, I had confidence in us to be able to go really far. And honestly, I'm really proud of us and how far we did go because we went up against some really tough competition. By the time, you get to the national tournament, everyone is really good. That's why they're there. And we're just as good as them. So that was something that I always tried to remind myself is that, they're really good. They're here for a reason, but we are also a really good team. And, that's why we're here as well.
Guess just to look at this still with this competition, do you think it varied much from what you were expecting? Was there any high points that stuck out to you or challenges through it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this final round of the national tournament, I think it went pretty well in terms of just the way that the tournament was organized and run. I think Texas Tech did a really great job making sure they had enough judges. They had, the rounds were on time. Everything was put in place really well because, props to anyone who runs one of these tournaments. It's a lot of hard work, getting enough attorneys and law students to be judges, having bailiffs, supplying food. I mean, there's a lot of thought that goes into these tournaments, and I think it's really difficult. So, props to Texas Tech for making our experience really good and timely and everything. So it didn't vary much, after 3 years. I mean, you kind of know what you're walking into. The first round or the first day, you compete in three rounds. Second day, it's single elimination until you get as far as you can go. So nothing was unexpected there. I had a really, really great experience. I think sometimes moot court differs between even regions, but also within programs. So there were a few procedural things that, Nick, I think you know what I'm referencing, that we really didn't do in our program and didn't really experience elsewhere. So that kind of caught us up a little bit, but it was before we started arguing, so it didn't matter as much. But
Yeah, I mean, I can just jump off of that. That is
yeah.
certainly one of the challenges and low points was not as the first speaker on petitioner because I had the first issue. Uh, Having a judge ask me to stand up and offer this uh, this statement prior to beginning that I didn't know exactly what he wanted was a bit uh, not fun. I was like a deer in headlights, but after that, things all went smoothly from that point. I would say the high was the fact that you and I were the number one seed going into day two. We won 8 out of our 9 ballots that we had on the first day. So that was definitely exciting to leave the competition on day one, knowing that we were the top seed going into day two. I guess, of course, the other low point would be losing on day two. We did get eliminated in the quarterfinal round, but the bit of the silver lining to that is the team that did beat us ended up winning the tournament. So, of course, they were a very, very talented team to even be there, but then, of course, to win the whole thing. just wanted to look at if there was anyone particularly influential for you throughout this process and what it was like working with our coaches and teammates. I'm sure we'll have some similar answers on who was influential for both of us.
Yep. Also, I realized I was supposed to ask this question. I'm so sorry. But um, yes, I obviously you highlighted our coaches' work beforehand. So definitely, definitely, they are so instrumental. And, I just want to take this time to also thank them for all of the time and effort they put in outside of their day jobs, honestly, to do this. Like, it's a lot of work. So I really appreciate that. But I think for me, aside from everyone that's already in the moot court program, I had a lot of people who, um, you know, uh, formerly attorneys or just attorneys in the area or whatnot, people who really like knew what moot court was and encouraged me and, just they were basically just there to tell me that, I'm getting a really great experience and that I should enjoy it and, just giving me the encouragement and the confidence to, feel really good about competing because they can kind of understand being attorneys themselves how difficult it is to be put in a situation like this. So they were definitely instrumental and just, my family is always really great. They don't necessarily understand what's going on, but they're really supportive about it. And every time, I tell them, I'm like, oh, Nick and I, made it to so and so or made it to this place or we placed fifth in the nation. Like they don't get it, but they're very excited for us. So I think, yeah, just a lot of great people have, I think, supported us and built us up.
Absolutely. I can do a little bit of name dropping here, I think, and I can speak for both of us in doing that. Of course, Dr. Kevin Lorenz, who taught the class this year and was one of our coaches for all 3 years we competed. Amy Hendrickson from the College of Business, who's one of the coaches for years here. And then, of course, Dr. Julie Kyle in the political science department was one of our coaches. So those three have put in a lot of time and effort into the program. And then shout out a couple more people. Steve and I's, your and I's first year,
Mhm.
we didn't know what was going on, and so we needed the returners, as we call them, returners and newbies, to kind of show us the ropes. And so, just to name a few of them, both of our first partners, Ethan Day and Garrett Powell, and then Jeffrey Ramsey and Kennedy Krieger. They're all four doing well at law school now. So I just wanted to shout them out because they had done it before. They knew what was going on, and they were very kind and helpful with us not knowing at all what was going on. So I think they deserve a shout out. And that kind of goes into
Mhm.
the working with coaches and teammates is that everybody in the program is kind and is helpful to each other. Even in those moments when, you and I faced off against Jeffrey and Kennedy last year at our regional, ultimately we did beat them, but there was no animosity with that. They were extremely proud of us and they've always been proud of everything that we've done. And so to that, I'm very appreciative, and I'm sure you are too. And I also,
Yeah.
hope that that's something that can continue with the program as the camaraderie.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll ask this question since I didn't ask the last one, but what is something or what will you miss about moot court?
I don't want to sound too corny and sappy here, but I would say I'm going to miss all of it. I really am. I have enjoyed the technical aspects of working through these problems and giving arguments and just the mental exercise it is to go through all of that, even on the days when I really did not want to have to give an argument, but our coaches made us anyway. I'm happy to have done that, and I'm glad that they made us. But then, of course, the friendships that we've already talked about and these people that well, we still keep in touch with them. Of course, we see them less because they're in law school across the country, and you're in DC now, of course, and I'll be going to law school somewhere, not yet determined. So I think I'll miss that. I'll miss seeing our coaches and all of our friends, and just being part of this program, and also being able to represent SVSU like this. I always enjoyed sports growing up, but never was good enough to play at the collegiate level. So it's fun to be able to kind of wear the moot court jersey and represent the school this way. So I'll miss that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I feel all of those sentiments. It's kind of like, you never know how good something is until you don't do it anymore. And right now, I do feel like I have some moot court withdrawals just because it has really sunk in that there is not going to be another year that I'm going to return to this program. But at the end of the day, I'm actually really excited to, see what happens beyond, the two of us. I think there's so much great potential in all of the people who are returning to moot court next year, all of the people who have a passion and enthusiasm and want to try it out, you know? So I think that's something that I'll just miss seeing because, you know, we've had a few people come back with us and just seeing how they've improved has always been really great. I think, you know, it'll be really weird when the case problem drops in May and I'll probably read it just to see what's going on, but I won't actually have to, you know, read the cases or write an argument. So I think it is those things that I'm going to miss. Like you said, no matter how much I complained about it, at the end of the day, I still really enjoyed it, particularly when we were competing. So I think I'm going to miss the competitions because you know it's anxiety inducing, but it's good anxiety. Like I had a really great time traveling also with our teammates and friends. I think that really is great for team building. And so, you know, not doing that anymore is going to be really sad, but I'm still really excited to see the growth of this program, you know, beyond the two of us.
Would you say there's any skill or anything that you gain from moot court that you think will be helpful in your professional career going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, working in Washington, D.C., working in Congress, a lot of sometimes issues that are discussed in Supreme Court cases, you know, come right from the legislative branch. So, obviously, being able to read legislation and understanding that, and also Supreme Court cases that affect, you know, all of us, I think having that under my belt is an invaluable thing to have. It helps me be able to critically think and analyze difficult issues and situations. So, that's always going to be a plus and will, you know, take me forward. I have plans on going to law school, just not right now. So obviously I will take that with me. And in terms of, you know, a lot of what we've done in moot court is oral arguing. So I think, you know, you can also agree that being able to speak better, to articulate our thoughts better, really think through what we're saying before we say it. I think all of those skills are something that we've had to learn, including, you know, discipline in situations in which, you know, if a judge asks a ridiculous question, you know, being able to be deferential and polite, that's always going to be important in any professional career because, you know, sometimes you want to say things that you shouldn't. And so being able to, you know, think twice before we speak is something that I've definitely taken away as well.
Yeah, I think your perspective is pretty strong here, given that you've jumped right into a professional job, whereas I'm not in that space at the moment and planning to go directly to law school. So I think I can speak more to the fact that this really gives me a leg up and all of our students who compete in moot court a leg up going into law school, which is what I've heard from individuals who are in law school now, because we have this experience reading cases and understanding them and doing this oral advocacy and the written advocacy with the brief writing competition. So that's something that is going to definitely benefit me in law school just to know how to do that stuff prior to getting there, whereas a lot of students didn't have this opportunity prior to entering law school. And then, of course, this just sets me up that and after while being in law school, will be able to be more successful, which then, you know, offers more opportunities in a professional career. And all of these skills, I think, will just continue to snowball and build as we go through our educational experiences and professional to just keep getting better at these things.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the last question is just us talking a little bit about our work in, well, my work in DC and, you know, your plans to go to law school and, you know, what you're looking forward to most. So I'll let you kick it off and then I can answer that.
Sure. So I haven't fully committed to a law school yet. That's generally done in April. You have to put a seat deposit down. But as you know, I was actually just in DC this past weekend. I saw you at the Capitol. You gave us a tour, so that was great. But I toured Georgetown and George Washington, both schools that have admitted me. And if I had to choose, I would ideally like to go to Georgetown University for law school. But of course, I haven't fully committed there yet. But if I had to pick today, that's likely what I would do.
Yeah, so right now I am the staff assistant in Congresswoman McDowell Rivet's office. So she represents Michigan's 8th congressional district, which SVSU sits in, and a lot of the students that go to SVSU obviously live in the area as well. So my job as a staff assistant, I do a lot of support for the staff in our office. You know, if they need something, I'm their go-to. I also give tours of the Capitol, which is something that Nick experienced this past week, as well as our two friends, Seth and Owen, who are also in the Moot Court program. So shout out to them. But yeah, I also answer the phones in our office. So, you know, constituent calls to make their voice heard. I've been doing a lot of that recently. So it's really interesting experience. I'm really glad to be here. I've been with the Congresswoman since she first ran for state Senate. So it's just kind of been, you know, moving forward with her and, you know, her plans and, you know, what she wants to accomplish for the people of Michigan's 8th district. So it's just a really exciting time. You know, DC is a great city, one of my favorites. So really grateful for this experience and to be working for somebody who I think is really awesome and a really great mentor these last few years.
Yeah, so I mean, I appreciate us having this opportunity to talk about Moot Court. It's a good cap on this past 3 years. I've had a lot of fun, and the past 2 years of being your partner has been great. I'm sad to see it end, but I'm glad we had the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, thanks for taking the time this evening. I know that there's a lot of different things that occupy both of our time, so being able to do this was really great. And you know, selfishly, I do hope that you go to Georgetown so that we can obviously just keep our friendship going. But you were just here this past weekend, so I imagine that you'll probably come back even if you don't go to Georgetown. But it's been really great to be your friend and be your moot court partner these last few years. So